Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out tonight and joining us online for our very first Committee of Adjustment meeting of 2022 to the term to 2026. It's a great day to welcome you all back. I'd like to take a minute to just welcome our newest member, Jang Penang. We're excited to have you. Thank you. Moving into our first item this evening, we will conduct the inauguration. We'll take a few minutes to declare everybody and appoint them. And I think how we will do this evening is I'm going to read the declaration to you and we'll go around the table. So if we want to start with Member Brown, if you want to stand up, declare your name, and I will read you the declaration.
I, Mayor Jane Brown,
Having been elected or appointed, actually, I'm going to start this over. We're going to do everybody's name. Sorry about that. So, Mr. Emmett.
Harry Emmett.
Bob Hamilton. Steve Schmidt. John Davis.
James Sinclair. I, Rebecca Smith,
Have been elected or appointed to the office of the Committee of Adjustment in the municipality of the County of Brant, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or prop thereof for the exercise of this office on a biased, corrupt, or any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration consecutively, believing it to be true and knowing it that it is one of the same force and effect as if made under oath. Do you declare this to be true?
yes.
Yes.
Thank you. We've got my talking out of the way. So I would like to ask the committee members now if we can elect a chair to be the chair of this term's Committee of Adjustment and Property Standards Committee. Do we have any nominations? Member Hamilton?
I would like to put the name forward for MJ Brown.
Any seconders? Member Emmett? Mary Jane, do you accept?
I'll accept.
Okay. Member Hamilton, can you make a motion, please? To
Yes, I
nominate.
can.
To nominate Member Brown.
Okay, I would like to nominate MJ Brown to become the chair of the Committee of Adjustment for the next session for the County of Brant.
And Member Emmett seconds. Okay. Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Penang. Member Vamus.
Yes.
Member Schmidt. Member Hamilton.
Yes.
Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Brown.
Yes.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Do we have a nomination for a vice chair? Member Brown?
I'll nominate Mr. Hamilton.
Member Hamilton, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
Do we have a seconder? Member Penang? Okay. Member Brown, can you please make a motion?
I will make the motion that Robert Hamilton becomes vice chair of the Committee of Adjustment for the County of Brant.
Seconded by Member Penang. Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Penang? Member Vamus?
Yes.
Member Schmidt?
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Emmett?
Yes.
Member Brown?
Yes.
Thank you very much, everyone. I will now pass this over to our new Madam Chairman, and you can come take your hot seat and start the meeting.
Thank you. sorry. We will start the December 15th Committee of Adjustment meeting for the County of Brant. And I would request a motion to approve the agenda from members. Member Schmidt.
So
Do I have a second? Member Emmett. All in favor? The agenda has been approved. I would request now that if there are any members that have a conflict to declare, Member Emmett, which items?
yes, I have three tonight. Number CA 22-58- or B 26-22. And then CA 22-44-63 on East River Road. And then the CA 22-63 B 75, 76 and 77 and 78 Spearenburgs.
Thank you. I'll ask that you stand aside when those applications are heard. Are there any other members who have conflicts they wish to declare at this point?
I have one,
Yes?
CA 22-55.
Item 1 on the agenda.
Yes.
Thank you. I'll ask that you stand aside when the application is heard.
Thank you.
I'll ask a committee member to make a motion to accept the minutes or indicate if there are any corrections required. Member Emmett? Hamilton, sorry. Yes? Motion, you don't see any corrections?
No, to accept it.
Thank you. Is there a second? Member Vamus? All in favor? The minutes for the meeting of September 15th, 2022 have now been approved. We will now move on to item 7 for our public hearings. But first, we will start with our rules of procedures and our opening remarks. Good evening, members of the committee, applicants, agents, staff, and members of the public. As this meeting is being held virtually as well, I will remind you that meeting is being recorded and streamed live via the County of Brant YouTube account. Committee of Adjustment members joining online should use their cameras throughout the meeting so that applicants, agents, and members of the public can identify the voting members and we can confirm you are present throughout the meeting. Planning staff will be requested to join the meeting during presentations and will be available to answer questions. Applicants, agents, owners, and delegations are also participating virtually. All persons wishing to speak to the items on the agenda were required to register prior to the meeting. Any comments, questions, or concerns received in written format have been provided to the members of the committee and will form part of the meeting record. Applicants, agents, and members of the public, please ensure your camera is off and your microphone is on mute throughout the meeting. When called upon to speak, please remember to unmute your microphone and turn on your camera if operational before speaking. Those presenting as delegations will have 10 minutes to speak to the application at hand, not past applications or associated applications. In the event a connection or service interruption occurs that affects quorum of Committee of Adjustment, we may recess the meeting for up to 15 minutes to regain quorum. If quorum is not achieved, the meeting is adjourned. The following rules of procedure now. This meeting is held in accordance with the provision of the Planning Act. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss minor variance and consent applications and give anyone in attendance the opportunity to ask questions, provide comments related to an application. Notice of this meeting was provided by mail and sign posted by staff as required by the Planning Act. A copy of the meeting agenda, including the staff report, related materials, and comments received are available on the County of Brant website. Once the presentations, public hearing, and question period are complete for each item, if the committee deems it appropriate, they will make a decision. Each committee decision is final following the 20-day appeal period. Please note the sign-in sheet at the entrance. If you are attending in person and wish to be notified of any decision from this evening, kindly note your name and address and application on the sign-in sheet. If you do not request a copy on the sign-in sheet, you will not be notified. The names of those individuals who speak on any item tonight will appear within the meeting minutes. Anyone wishing to receive further notice or a copy of the committee's decision, please contact the County of Brant Planning Department. The order of delegation are as follows: planning staff report and recommendation, applicant agent presentation, questions and discussion, public comments, further questions of clarification, decision. Immediately following the Committee of Adjustment meeting this evening, we will be hearing 2 fence variance applications. I'll now call order of the members. Please indicate by staying present if you are in attendance. Mary Jane Brown, present. Harry Emmett.
Present.
Bob Hamilton.
Present.
Jane Canay.
Present.
Rebecca Smith.
Present.
Steve Schmidt.
Present.
John Vames.
Present.
Since I did start out of order, we have approved the agenda. Are there any items to add? Did this a little out of, so we do have the motions on those. We have our conflicts for item 3, and we have adopted the minutes from the previous meetings. So we will now start with our first item on the agenda. And I will turn it over to staff for application SV 622-AA.
R was online.
Okay,
Hi, can you hear me okay?
yes,
Perfect.
can hear you.
All right. Good evening, Committee of Adjustment and members of the public. This is a sign variance application for the lands located at 197 Pinehurst Road within the geographic township of South Dumfries. The subject lands are located on the southwest side of Pinehurst and Watts Pond Road intersection. The sign variance is to permit relief from the sign bylaw to permit 12 fascia signs, whereas only 2 are permitted, as well as to permit 6 incidental signs less than 50 meters away from each other, and where 5 of the 6 incidental signs are above the maximum area per sign face, and to permit 3 projecting signs, whereas only 1 is permitted, with a clearance of 2.1 meters, whereas 2.4 meters is required. The subject lands are designated general commercial within the County of Brant official plan. The sign variance is in conformity with the County of Brant official plan as it permits a restaurant use. The subject lands are zoned general commercial within the County of Brant zoning bylaw. The proposed signs are permitted within the zone, and the proposals is in keeping with the intent of the zoning bylaw. No public comments were received as part of the circulation notice. As a result of the upcoming sign bylaw review, staff is of the opinion that the request is in keeping with the overall intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and will not impact adjacent land uses. I'm recommending approval of the sign variance application, subject to the attached conditions. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Does the committee have any questions or comments to staff? It appears there are none.
Members,
I think
sorry.
Oh, sorry. Member Smith?
Through the chair, just to staff, I know I ask this question every single time, but when are we scheduled to do the sign variance or the sign bylaw update?
Yeah, I have asked the staff and our policy team, and it's scheduled for the first quarter of the new year.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any further questions? Is the agent or applicant present
Yes, they are.
online?
I believe so, yeah.
What is their name?
Jason, I believe. I think it should be.
Yes, I'm present.
Do you have anything further to add to the staff report?
Nothing really further. I mean, other than I think the proposed variance, most of the signs are relatively small in nature, and in comparison to the scale of the building, it really doesn't create any sort of clutter of signage or anything like that. It's really not distracting to any of the surrounding premises. So, in my opinion, I believe it's I agree with staff's recommendation for approval. So.
Thank you. Do any committee members have any questions? Yes, Mr. Hamilton?
Through the chair, to the applicant, there was the recommendation there, or the one condition to move the sign for, I think, coming in, so it did sight lines. Has that been worked through, and are you in agreement with that?
Sorry, yes, I'm not actually aware of any request to move the sign, so I'm not too sure. I can't really answer that question. I don't believe I was informed of any need to move any signs.
Yeah, it's the third condition in there, so it was to be moved back a little bit so that it didn't interfere with traffic and certain safety. So I was just curious if you were in agreement with that. So that's all. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, as long as there's sufficient room on the site to relocate the sign, while still having it in a valid location. Most of the signs that are proposed here within the variance are directional signs needed for the drive-through facility, and they're just there to really help manage the traffic, to just increase overall safety for vehicle and pedestrians alike, to make sure that vehicles know where they're going. Not everyone's doing 3-point turns all over the parking lot, and it just creates some sense of order, right?
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments? Are there any public delegations registered? They're not. Okay, there are none. And are there any final questions or comments to either staff or the agent? It appears there are none. I will now request a mover and a seconder for a motion. Mr. Schmidt? Mr. Emmett? I believe we were going back to our order where you would provide your motion first, and then I'll request a second. So if you can provide your motion, Mr. Smith.
Okay, it is, thank you, Chair. It is moved by myself. And, I'm sorry. You don't want the,
No, well, now that we're in person again,
okay.
Member Emmett can second it if he supports your application as
Right.
read.
Okay, the motion would read that with the change of the one sign, location-wise, that we follow the recommendation of staff.
So are you proposing a modification to condition 3 then?
It just maintains.
Yeah, okay. And do you second that motion, Member Emmett? Okay, all in favor? And Member Smith has voted in favor. So I can now call the individual members for the record, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Panay. Yes. Vamus.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
And Hamilton.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion has carried. The application has been approved. I will now introduce the item 6.2 for application A34-22-LG and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and recommendation.
Good evening, Committee of Adjustment and members of the public. This is a minor variance application for lands located at 41 William Street within the geographic township of Paris. The subject lands are located west of Elm Street, south of William Street, and east of the Grand River. The subject lands are rectangular in shape and have an approximate frontage of 23.99 meters on William Street in an area of 404.69 square meters. The subject lands contain one existing dwelling and a shipping container accessory structure. The surrounding area consists of predominantly low-density residential with recreational facilities to the southeast and commercial land uses to the west. The subject lands have municipal services. The applicant is requesting relief from section 4.4, table 4.4.1 of the zoning bylaw to permit the current location of a shipping container. Relief from section 4.41 of the zoning bylaw, to permit a reduced street setback of 2 meters, whereas a minimum of 6 meters is required. The image shown displays the current location of the shipping container, which is approximately the 2 meters that they're requesting. The subject lands are designated as urban residential and located within the urban settlement boundary of Paris and zoned special policy area, built and cultural heritage area, residential multiple low density, and natural heritage within the County of Brant zoning bylaw 6116. As part of the public circulation, we received 4 public comments in support of this application. Review of this minor variance application has had regard for the 4 tests as set out in section 45.1 of the Planning Act, public comments and comments received as part of the technical circulation. The relief requested is considered minor in nature, is desirable for the appropriate development and use of the subject lands. The proposed variance is in keeping with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw 6116, and the proposed variance meets the 4 tests of the Planning Act. It is my professional recommendation that minor variance application A3422LG be approved. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Laura. Do any committee members have any questions or comments to staff? Member Smith, do you have any comments?
I just have one through the chair to staff. I see that there's a comment from Development Engineering asking for a survey. I'm just wondering if we need to include that as a condition, or it's just going to be checked. Well, I guess they don't need a building permit, so just looking for your feedback on that.
Through further discussion with Development Engineering as well, the applicant was able to provide a historical survey that was drawn to scale, and Development Engineering was able to accept that. They still, however, recommended that a survey be obtained, but it wasn't required.
Okay, so I guess, because that's kind of what I saw. I mean, there is a survey, but there is an old survey, but it's really not confirming that it's 2 meters. It's not really a sticking point for me, and if staff's comfortable with proceeding without the condition, I'm okay. I just wanted to make sure it wasn't missed.
Yes, through the chair, staff are comfortable with proceeding.
Any further comments or questions then? If there are none, is the applicant or their agent present? Either Andrea Graham?
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
Just to confirm it actually ended up being a little more than the 2 meters inside my fence line, for that comment. But other than that, no. I'm here to answer any questions though.
Do any committee members have any comments or questions to the applicant? Member Hamilton?
Thank you. Through the chair to the applicant, just wondering, looking at the conditions and what may be stored in this container, there was a couple things put forward that should not be stored. Are you in agreement with that and following that direction?
Yes, it's 90% of it's kids' toys and a few tools.
Excellent, thank you.
No problem.
Are there any further comments or questions from the committee to the applicant? Are there any public delegations registered to speak? Thank you. Are there any final comments or questions from committee members to staff or the applicant? I will now request a motion from committee members. Member Hamilton,
I move that we accept minor variance A34-22-LG because it's minor in nature and it fulfills the both the zoning bylaws and the official plan of the County of Brant.
thank you. Do I have a seconder? Member Panay, have I pronounced it correctly? Thank you. I'll ask all the members now to indicate if you are in favor, starting with Member Emmett,
Yes?
Member Hamilton,
Yes.
Member Schmidt,
Yes.
Member Vamus,
Yes.
Member Panay,
Yes.
Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Brown, yes. The motion has carried. The application has been approved. Thank you for presenting. I will now introduce item 6.3 for application B26-22-DN and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and recommendation.
Oh.
Sorry.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. This is an application requesting a change of conditions to a decision that was made by the committee back in May of 2022. So the original approval was for a surplus farm dwelling severance of the woodlot shown on the screen, which required, as part of the decision, that the lands be consolidated to the farmland, the abutting farmland to the north. The applicants are requesting a change in conditions due to the inability to provide or establish an agreement of purchase and sale with that abutting property owner, that was something that was in place at the time. There were some details that have fallen through. So the applicant has pursued a purchase and sale agreement with the abutting property to the west, and that is reflected in the change of condition. So we have, I've provided you a list of the revised conditions, and I'll just kind of go through some of the details. The first is a modification to the condition related to road widening. So this is expanding the scope of that condition to include the frontage of the lands to the west. Obviously, that was something that was not considered as part of the previous application. So just making sure that we have the ability to take road widening if required. The second modification is simply that the lands be consolidated with the lands to the west, as opposed to the previous condition, which required the lands to be consolidated to the north. I've added a condition that requires the lands that are being transferred to and consolidated to the west, that portion of land be rezoned to include the site-specific A-9, which is site-specific zoning typical to this type of application, that removes the ability to establish a new dwelling unit as a permitted use. And the addition of a condition that's related to the applicant's requirement to establish a civic address for the lands that are to the west. Our mapping identifies no civic address. Moving forward, we'd like to assign a civic address to any parcels that do not have one for 911 emergency services reasons. So that's just the reason for including that condition. So it is my opinion that the request for change of conditions is in keeping with the committee's original decision from May 2022, and that the appropriate additional conditions have been included to maintain the intent of the policies that would support such a application. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do any committee members have any comments or questions to staff? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to staff, condition 6 with the agreement to purchase, has that been worked towards, and have you seen that yet at the county level?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Hamilton, I believe that a draft or perhaps the final copy was provided to staff for review, and Mr. Cahoon is here to speak to that as well on the applicant's behalf.
Okay, no, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Member Smith?
Sorry, I'm trying not to have as many questions this round, but through the chair to staff, I don't agree with the additional condition to rezone the consolidated parcel to A9 because you're technically consolidating it with another parcel. So it just becomes one new parcel. So I think the threat of doing an A9 zoning is just really to limit an additional new dwelling. But because you're consolidating with it with a parcel, that total parcel can only still have one dwelling. So I'm not too sure of the reasoning for the A9, but I just want to make that comment. I probably wouldn't recommend, well, I probably won't agree with that revised condition just because I don't think it's necessary. Maybe more of a comment, or if staff wanted to comment to that.
Through you, Madam Chair, that condition was just added as a precaution, as you identified, to prevent the ability to establish a dwelling. If you note the official plan designation and the current zoning on that property that it's being merged to is resource development designation and the resource extraction zoning. So with those designations and zoning wouldn't permit a residential dwelling to be established. So I felt it was just in keeping with that intent. As you know, if that agricultural parcel was maintained its agricultural zoning, in theory they could establish a dwelling on that parcel if it wasn't rezoned to the A-9. So just to summarize the response, it was really just to maintain, or I guess keep the, it was in recognition of the zoning on the benefiting parcel and the nature of that use and the restrictions that use can have on neighboring dwellings.
Okay, can I do a follow-up through the chair, if you don't mind? Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I see the gravel, Dan. It's just, I mean, that zoning's different, so we're almost just, it's still going to be a split zoning. That's just, I don't know. I'm just going by ownership, right? And the impact of us keeping it as a standard agricultural zoning is really no further because you still have to check NDS. So that's why I was just wondering. And that's not, do they have an active license on that side, on the extraction side yet? Or is it just zoned for future? It doesn't look like it.
I'll have the agent confirm, but I do believe they don't have, they're not active on that portion at the moment.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions from committee members to staff? I'll now ask, is the applicant or their agent present? Mr. Cahoon, do you have anything to add to the report?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'm here representing Shirley McAllister, owner of 655 Watts Pond Road. We've read the conditions that, the additional conditions and revisions to the original conditions, and have no objection to incorporating. We do agree with the A9 zoning in order to protect that ag land from any potential residential use. That would be the lands being transferred to the west to the abutting property. The abutting property is zoned extractive, and I do believe that there is a license that's in operation approved by the ministry for this. We have to amend the license to create a 1.94 meter widening since the drawings have already been completed, so we have to revise those. And I'm here to answer any of the questions that may arise as a result of our amendments.
Thank you. Do any committee members have any questions to the agent? Member Smith?
Maybe through the chair, just a general comment. So yeah, I guess if it's extraction, I understand why you'd want that A9. It's just maybe not, maybe just a comment for me. We don't need to worry about that if we go forward. So thank you.
Any other comments or questions from committee members? No, it appears there are none. Are there any public delegations registered for this? No. No. And I'll just, last time, are there any further final comments or questions? With that, I will request a motion on this application from a committee member. Member Smith, would you like to put forth a motion?
Sure, I can put forward the motion. I will say move by myself and second. Well, I won't do that because we're not seconding, but I'll move a motion to approve, subject to the revised conditions because it's in keeping with the growth plan, provincial policy statement, and the County of Brant official plan.
Thank you. Do I have a second? Member Schmidt? I will now put the application to a vote, starting with Member Hamilton.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
Member Bamus.
Yes.
Member Panag.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
And Member Brown. Yes. The motion has carried. The application has been approved. Thank you. I will now introduce item 4 on our agenda for application A36 22AA and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and recommendation. I believe this is Arma. Yes.
Yeah, I'll be presenting online.
Thank you. Please go
This
ahead.
is, oh, sorry. Go ahead. This is a minor variance application for lands located at 58 Main Street Road Main Street in Paris. The subject lands are located on the west of Dumfries Street on the south side of Main Street. The minor variance is to permit an outdoor deck with a setback of 0.6 meters, whereas Section 4 of the bylaw requires a minimum of 1.2 meters. The reason for this variance is to allow for more outdoor space with a wider deck. The subject lands are designated urban residential within the County of Brant official plan. The minor variance is in conformity with the official plan as it allows for residential uses. The subject lands are zoned built and cultural heritage area residential singles and semis within the County of Brant zoning bylaw. The deck is permitted within the residential zone and all other requirements for an accessory structure as per the bylaw are being satisfied. I am in support of this variance as it is in keeping with the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The request is minor in nature and will not impact adjacent land uses. I am recommending approval of the minor variance subject to the attached conditions. I would also like to add, based on just new information we found, for the existing deck that is encroaching onto the neighbor's property, I would add the conditions that the applicant requires a building permit for the new deck, and that the timeline to meet these conditions are 8 months from when the decision is made. Thank you, and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Irma. We'll now ask the committee, do you have any questions or comments to staff on this application? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to staff, so this deck that was upgraded and slightly enlarged did not have a current building permit?
Through the chair to Member Hamilton, and no, it does not have a building permit.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions or comments to staff? It appears there are none. Is the applicant or their agent present? Yes? Did I have your... Okay. Pardon? Yes, please come ahead, and can we have your name? Yeah. Oh, he's the neighbor? You're not the applicant. Sorry, we will deal with you later. I don't know. Is the applicant?
I'm not too sure if they joined on Zoom, but
I don't know who Seal is.
Do you want to ask?
Ask one more time.
Do you want? Is the applicant or agent present either online or in the chambers to speak to this application? For 58 Main Street, Paris. It appears they are not present.
Do you want to move forward with this application?
I think that would, I will get some input from committee members. Do you wish to move forward if the applicant is not present here?
Who's the iPhone? Can we confirm who iPhone is on the Zoom?
Which one are you looking at? I see Seal. Oh, up here, iPhone. There is someone online who's registered as iPhone. Could I ask you to identify yourself? Hello, could you unmute? Oh.
Hi, this is Matthew White from Cahoon Engineering. I believe that's Jacob Bix.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, there he is.
You hear me?
Yes, so you have nothing, you're not the applicant on 58 Main Street. Okay.
No, I'm not the applicant for that.
Okay, thank you. Then there is a party identified as Seal on our screen. Could you identify yourself if you are the applicant or agent for 58 Main Street, Paris? Mr. Seal, Ms. Seal? Okay, then it appears the applicant is not present. I guess they didn't communicate in. Does the committee wish to move forward with this? Or would we have consider a motion to defer? Member Smith?
Just through the chair to the committee, I think having realized that this was built without a building permit, I would be a little bit hesitant to defer, especially if we have a neighbor coming up to the podium. I think the onus is on the applicant. Just my opinion. I'd like to proceed.
You'd like to proceed? Okay, well then, are there any public delegations registered to speak? Could I have your name, please? Towler? Thank you.
Speak to that microphone.
Thanks. Were you able to?
If you could restrict your comments just to this application.
Okay. So, good evening, Committee of Adjustment members and staff and general public. My name is John Teller, and I've been the owner of 60 Main Street, the neighbor, for over 30 years. Now, in between the two properties, there's a brick retaining wall. And over the years, the owners of 58 Main Street and myself, we've always looked at that as sort of the boundary between the two properties. And no one ever felt the need or actually the need for any official survey. We've always really respected that line. So I do not agree with the variance request. And the rationale is the deck that was built last summer, it was built either to and in some points over the property line. I took some pictures of the deck. I don't know whether they were made it to the, you didn't receive them? Okay. But I have them on my iPhone if anybody would like to take a look at it. The members present. But once you get those pictures, all I ask is that you just have a chance to take a look at those pictures and just see how close to the property line. And in one section of about a foot, it's actually over the property line. So I really don't agree with the request for the variance. So basically all I have to say, and thank you. Any questions?
Any questions from committee members to Mr. Towler? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to delegation here, do you currently have a current survey on the east side of your property stating where this proposed line is? Because we do have a condition that they have to provide a one on the westerly, which is, butts up to you. I just wondered if you currently have a...
I do not have a survey. Like I say, I've owned the property 30 years, and that was...
It's a neighbor. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So...
Any further comments or questions to Mr. Towler? Are there any other public delegations that wish to speak to this application? There are none. Are there any final questions or comments to staff or public delegation since the applicant is not present? Member Smith, do you? Yes, please go ahead.
Just one through the chair to staff. Is the applicant aware that they have these conditions and they might be applied, and that might require them to maybe take off a portion of the deck if what the delegation is sharing is actually correct?
Through the chair to Member Smith, yeah, they are aware. They were made aware of this.
Thank you.
Then with Member Hamilton?
Then through the chair to staff, what has been their thoughts on this, on providing the survey, and that they may be in violation even farther than what they've applied for?
Through the chair to Member Hamilton, I'm not really aware of their thoughts regarding that, but I have advised them that a survey would be condition of approval, and that if they may need to alter that, and if they don't comply with that, then bylaw will follow up with them if they don't meet the conditions.
Okay, thank you.
Is there someone from the county who wishes to speak? Okay. So are there any further comments or questions? Member Smith?
All right, just one more question. Through the chair to maybe the delegation or staff, but I'll start with maybe the delegation. The deck was replaced. How much bigger or closer to that abutting property line do you think it went? Did it go a lot, or is it generally the same size as the previous deck?
No, probably 6 to 8 feet larger.
And it went that much closer to your shared property line?
Oh, yeah. It's actually, like I said, either on the property line in some places or over in some places.
Okay, so it's a much bigger deck.
It's built on a bit of an angle.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? With that, I will request a motion on this application from a member. Are there any committee members who wish to make a motion on this application? Member Hamilton.
I will make a motion to accept the minor variance with the conditions stated, and then I'm not sure how this goes through the staff, where if the deck is closer than significant, then I suppose it falls under the property enforcement people. Is that what happens?
Yes, that would be correct. It'd be through bylaw enforcement, that if they don't meet the conditions, then the bylaw would follow.
Okay, then they would file, no, they would check it out and possibly file a violation if it was there. Okay. Yeah. Then I will go ahead and make a motion that we accept the minor variance A36-22-AA because it is minor in nature and it does meet the County of Brant official plan and bylaws on the fact that it is amended to include the building permit being added as well as the first condition of the verification with a survey.
Thank you, Member Hamilton. Is there a committee member who wishes to second this motion? Member Pinay, you're seconding?
Yes.
I will now call a vote, starting with Member Emmett.
No.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Schmidt?
No.
Member Vamus?
No.
Member Pinay?
No.
Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Brown? No. What's the count? We had five no's. Okay, the motion has failed. Do we now have, since you voted to approve, can I now have a motion to deny the application so that we have it on record? Or defer. We can deny or defer to a later meeting where hopefully the applicant will attend. Member Vamus?
I'd like to make a motion to deny application A3622-AA because it's not in compliance with section 4 of the zoning bylaw 61-66.
Thank you, Member Vamus. Do I have a second for the motion to deny this application? Member Schmidt. I will now call this motion to a vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Schmidt?
Yes.
Member Vamus?
Yes.
Member Pinay?
Yes.
Member Smith? No. No? On record? Member Brown, yes. We now have 6, I believe, to support the application to be denied. Thank you. The application has been denied, and we will now move on to item 5 on our agenda for application A32-22 LG for 50 Paris Road.
This is a minor variance application for lands located at 50 Paris Road within the geographic township of Paris. The subject lands are located south of Dundas Street East and southwest of Paris Road within the geographic township of Paris. The subject lands are rectangular in shape and have an approximate frontage of 87.82 meters on Paris Road and an area of approximately 6,717 square meters. The subject lands contain one existing dwelling and a detached accessory structure. The surrounding area consists of predominantly low-density residential and commercial land uses. The subject lands are on municipal water and septic. The applicant is requesting relief from section 4.28 of the zoning bylaw to allow the extension of an existing legal nonconforming use to permit construction of an attached additional residential unit within the general commercial zone. The existing dwelling was built in the 1960s, and the residential use has since been continuous. Within the current general commercial zone, a single detached dwelling is not permitted. Therefore, the existing dwelling would be considered a legal nonconforming use, and adding an addition of an additional residential unit would create an extension to the existing legal nonconforming use. Shown is the north elevation, which has the existing as well as the addition. And this is the site plan showing the existing single-family dwelling as well as a detached garage in the proposed addition that's on the west of the dwelling. The subject lands are designated as general commercial and are located within the primary urban settlement boundary of Paris and zone general commercial within the County of Brant zoning bylaw 6116. As part of the public circulation, one public comment was received in support of this application. A review of this minor variance application has had regard for section 45.2 of the Planning Act and comments received as part of the technical and public circulation. The proposal is desirable for the appropriate development and continued use of the subject lands. The application is in conformity with the general intent of the policies of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The proposed variances meet the criteria for the extension of a legal nonconforming use per section 45.2 of the Planning Act. Please note that the recommendation has been updated to reflect section 45.2 of the Planning Act. It is my professional recommendation that minor variance application A3222LG be approved as amended. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Lauren. Do any committee members have any questions to staff on this application? Member Smith, do you have any questions or comments?
I don't, thank you.
It appears there are none. So is the applicant or their agent present to make a presentation? Yes. Do you have anything to add to staff's report?
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of committee. My name is Ruchika Anger.
Oh,
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, Ruchika, the applicant is here in council chambers as well too. So
pardon me. The owner of the property is present in person.
So do you have anything further to add to the report?
To you, Madam Chair. Yes, if I can, please. We have read the staff report and thank you for the supportive recommendation. Just have one request to the committee. There is a condition for a survey that is required for the easterly property line where the addition is going to be. The zoning bylaw, it is zone C2, general commercial zone, and C2 zone requires a 3-meter setback. Even with the addition, it's more than 10 meters that's provided on the easterly side yard. We think that it's a bit excessive to ask for a survey for the property when there's a large side yard. We understand the intent of ensuring that it does not encroach within the setback requirements. But the survey will take additional 4 to 6 months because of how the land surveyors are a bit behind, as well as the land registry office. There's a bit of delay. And the owner is present to talk about the addition, which is required. Actually working on preparing the building permit to be submitted within next week or so. So this will cause additional delay. So we'll request the committee to consider removing the condition for the survey. I think if the owner may be able to add a few additional things to what I have stated.
Thank you, Rashika. So to sum up, because I had difficulty hearing you at times, you are requesting that the first bullet of condition 1 be deleted?
Yes.
That is what you're requesting. Then,
yes.
Okay, thank you. But you were okay with the second bullet of condition 1?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you. Then I would ask that the applicant, since your agent did indicate that you could provide further information, I believe the committee would like to hear what is the request to delete a portion of condition 1. Could you come forward? And your name is? Mark James. Thank you.
So, thank you. I'm here to ask for the, I believe the land survey, because it's, I guess it's necessary, but and this is one of the conditions. But I'm requesting it to to be taken off simply because we do have approximately 33 to 35 feet, without a doubt, to the neighbor's property. And of course, you know, there's 100 feet on the backyard, 130 in the front. You know, if my understanding is going to be 6 months, 4 to 6 months for a land survey for that area, and my son, which is here as well, his to-be wife, Michael and Melissa, they're living presently in a basement with 2 kids. They've outgrown it to the point where this is why this is happening. They really do need it, and it's time consuming just to build the addition, and if that's the case, it might be a year, maybe longer, perhaps, and to understand that, you know, there's plenty of room from the addition to the fence line. Having said that, if there is, I designed it based on 33 feet from, at the minimum 33 feet from the neighbor's property, simply because I did one prior on the other side of the house, and I was told 33 feet was the number, which I did. And it was approved, and it was built, and everything was good. And that's the garage. So at this point now, I'm basically going on the same pretense of 33 feet, and now we need a land survey. So I'm just requesting it be deleted, please.
Thank you. And Lauren, what would be your input on that?
So I have spoken with development engineering. They have advised this is a standard condition. I've also spoken with our grading and building departments. They've advised that as the setback is approximately 10 meters from the east property line, that verification of the east property line will not be required as part of the building permit review.
Thank you. Do committee members have any questions or comments to the applicant on this? Or staff? Member Vamus?
Yes, through the chair to the applicant. The proposal is for an attached unit, but on the one map we have, it looks like it's unattached. So is it attached or unattached?
There's a breezeway, so what it will be is a one-bedroom extension, and then the two poles, that'll be a breezeway, but it is all attached. Is that the question, sir?
Yeah, I didn't know if it's hooked onto the existing house or there's like,
Yes.
it's gonna be an open air space in between the two.
It's just a breezeway because of the one bedroom. It'll be part of the existing.
Open air, though.
Yeah, open air. But the roof will be on top. So it'll be certainly one roof for all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Member Emmett, do you have a question?
That was my question.
Okay, thank you. Member Hamilton?
You said it's just one bedroom, and through the chair to the applicant. I'm looking at 68.5 and a half as a width and 28.4 or 4 inches width. To me, when I look at that, that seems bigger than a one bedroom.
Well, I can answer that, sir. My mother, President Lee. The first part.
Okay, so.
So that's a 3-bedroom home on the left.
All right.
Yes, and then there's a 1-bedroom just addition that would go through the closet of the house. Present closet of the house would be used as a hallway to that 1-bedroom, and then a breezeway, and then the house.
Okay, yeah, no, it was just, I'm looking at it and it wasn't adding up in my mind.
I see, okay. Yeah.
But I can see that with here, I was expecting it was the building farther left or to the west.
No.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Any further comments or questions from the committee members? It appears there are none. Are there any public delegations registered to speak to this application? I believe there are none. Are there any final comments or questions from the committee members then? Then I will request a motion on this application. Member Emmett?
I move that application A32-22 LG be approved.
Thank you. Is there a seconder for this motion? Member Schmidt? I will now call the motion to a vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
That's what are we leaving the standard condition required for the first bullet? Thank you for reminding me on that. You made the motion, Member Emmett?
I was going to leave it in.
You're leaving it in. Thank you. Then I will go back to calling the vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Pinag.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Vamus.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
Member Hamilton.
Yes.
And Member Brown, yes. The motion has carried. The application has been approved with the standard conditions as attached in the staff report.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. I will now introduce the item 6 for application B63-828-22DN and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a consent application with a minor variance component for the property located at 202 East River Road. And our agent for the application is with us this evening in person. The subject lands are identified on the screen in blue, being on the east side of East River Road, north of Blue Lake Road. You can see that the subject lands do have frontage along East River Road as well as frontage along Blue Lake Road. The front portion of the property is, there we go. The front portion of the property is adjacent to just north of lots that were created back in 2017, zoning bylaw amendment application in 2016 to permit the uses, and then consent applications to create a number of lots with a shared access granted by the Committee of Adjustment back in 2017. So the proposal this evening is to sever that remaining tooth, we'll call it, or the remaining vacant portion that was part of the retained land as part of the previous application. So this consent is to sever a lot having 52 meters of frontage along East River Road and an area of 9,300 square meters. And this lot, once severed, will utilize the existing easement, shared access easement that was established back in 2017. The parts on the plan at the time when the survey was established, the extending the shared access to this vacant portion was contemplated at that time, so that those permissions are already in place. The minor variance component to this application is to recognize the reduced area of the retained lands being agricultural. So here's a better look at the proposed severed lands. Similar to the previous consent applications to the south, we're maintaining a 30-meter buffer to that woodlot to the rear. The zoning is currently in place, does have site-specific provisions that were established back in 2016 to control or kind of establish where that dwelling could be placed. You can also see towards the northeast corner, you can see a number of small trees that were planted as part of that application to prevent kind of that visual impact for abutting properties in the subdivision to the north. And then you can see the white arrow where the driveway would be extended through the hedgerow there to provide access to the severed lands. So as I mentioned, the front portion, the portion being severed is within the rural residential designation in the official plan, which permits residential uses. The remainder of the property is agricultural and does have the natural heritage system being the green area, which is being protected and unchanged. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Dan. Do any committee members have any questions or comments on this application? Member Hamilton.
Through the chair to staff, I'm looking at the retained portion, not the lots going off. I look at that and I'm seeing it comes out on Blue Lake Road. What is a 911 number?
Through you, Madam Chair, that's a great question. I'm not sure if there is one assigned.
I do not believe there is one. Yeah. Well, there was not one there when I looked at it. So that was, I guess, the point. I think we need to go ahead and maybe add that as a condition. I'm not sure. What are your thoughts, staff?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Member Hamilton, I think that is a great idea. Again, in keeping with what I kind of mentioned before about the conditions of the civic addressing. So if it's not already there, I think it'd be a good idea to include it.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if it was an accident happened on that agriculturally, where would the emergency people, how would they attack it? I guess that was my one question. I have a second question with that. I'm just looking at that. It appears to be mainly bush and trees. How is access to that farmland on the retained part being accessed? It should have an access from the road directly, correct?
Through Madam Chair, that's my understanding. The applicant or the agent is here today who can confirm. I did ask this question as part of my review for the application to demonstrate how that agricultural parcel would continue to be farmed. How is it accessed today? And the farmer who farms that provided a letter for my review that that confirmed that access is gained from Blue Lake Road to the farm parcel.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions from committee members? Member Vamus?
Through the chair, to Dan, that the 30-acre buffer now, I'm a little confused. What does that go with? That goes with retained land? How is that, how someone's responsible to maintain that? And the buffer, it just goes through a few of the lots, not all of them? At the back?
Through Madam Chair, to Member Vamos, you're referring to the 30-meter buffer? So that's, the severed lands would be, I guess, can you see my presentation on your any of your screens? No. No. Okay, so there should be a graphic in the report that gives you, let's see. Yeah, so it's the last picture, attachment 4. Kind of gives you a better idea of that 30-meter buffer. So that severance line that we're drawing needs to maintain 30 meters from that woodlot. So that space between the rear lot line and the woodlot would be retained with the retained lands and be responsibility of that property owner to maintain that.
Any further comments or questions? Member Smith, I can't see her on right now.
Nothing from me. Thank you.
You have no comments?
I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd have a question. Since this is agricultural zoning, and as was required in a previous application this evening where we put the A9 on it, even though that lot was being merged to the west, we have no condition here for A9, and I wondered why that was the case.
Through Madam Chair, the A9 zoning, which is that site-specific zoning that would prevent a dwelling as a permitted use on any agricultural parcel, we haven't applied it in this situation because there is development potential on the subject lands, similar to previous applications where a portion of it is within within a settlement boundary, or a portion of it has designation that has development potential. Once we're simply separating those uses, and the applicants would maintain the ability to establish one dwelling on that agricultural parcel.
So if you were to put your map up again, then if you're saying it's potentially for the future further development, then where would the rural residential zoning falls, given that there's only a very narrow access from Blue Lake Road to that property, which can be farmed? So where's the rural residential fall?
Through Madam Chair, the rural residential portion is along East River Road. So if you follow kind of the lands being severed, which is highlighted in red on, I guess if you're looking in the report, it's in one of the attachments. If you look at the official plan mapping.
Yes, but that's my point. Isn't that the last lot of rural residential that is facing East River Road?
That's correct. So we're severing that piece, and the retained lands would all be agricultural, and they would still maintain the ability to establish a dwelling.
But it's an undersized parcel.
That's correct. It's undersized, currently undersized as an agricultural parcel, so we'll have to, we're recognizing that through the minor variance application, but essentially with the designation, I know I've tried to explain this before. We did the same thing out on Similar recommendation out on Hammond Road. That frontage within, we've had it on McVeigh Road. A number of different situations where there is development potential. We're allowing that development potential to move forward for what the designation allows for, but we're also continuing to allow the agricultural designation and the one dwelling that's permitted on that parcel to carry forward, rather than a surplus dwelling severance where you're severing that one dwelling and there's policies in place that require us to ensure that no further dwellings are able to be established.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further comments? Member Smith, do you have a comment?
It's maybe just a general comment because I maybe find this a little bit easier, but I think the difference here is that we have lands that are in a rural residential designation, so they can be built on. In circumstances where we add the A9, all of the total lands are completely within an agricultural area. So because part of these lands are in a rural residential area, it just makes it a little bit different. And sorry if I'm speaking out of turn, Dan. I think what we have here was keeping it a straight A zoning is practical because those lands are not changing. We're just taking the portion off that can be built on. So that's just a comment from me.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions to staff? And with that, is the applicant or their agent present? Yes? Please. Yes, you wish to add to staff report?
Well, my name is Paul Emerson. I'm a friend of the applicant. And, do I need to press the button? Okay. There we go. Sorry. My name is Paul Emerson. I'm a friend of the applicant. I'm here to speak on his behalf if there are any questions. I have no further comments to add. I agree with the staff report and the comments made by Dan and Member Smith. So,
then I'll ask committee members, do you have any questions or comments to the applicant? Member Hamilton?
Yes, thank you. Through the staff to the applicant, can you just explain to me how you're going to get equipment into that retained lands that is going to be farmed, not the tree section, or the natural heritage, but the actual farm lands being farmed, please?
yes, Member Hamilton. It's been farmed for a number of years, and that's how they come in along that abandoned rail line. So there is a roadway. I don't know whether I obviously think you drove by it. You said, yeah, and a good comment about the 911 too. I never thought of that myself, but that's how they get the equipment in. There's plenty of room. It's been cleared. I think the frontage is 86 meters actually. Okay. So there's a lot of room there. It just follows the rail line, and there's some tree buffer along each side, but combines go in, big equipment goes in. It's not a problem.
Okay, that's good. I seen the one driveway in, but then it just sort of drove into a bunch of trees. And
Yeah, yeah.
Then there was the other farm field behind it, so that's why I was just wondering.
Yeah, I understand.
Did you go through the neighbor's field in order to get there, or was it landlocked or not? Was really my question.
Yeah, thank you.
Any further comments or questions from committee members? And are there any public delegations registered to speak?
I don't have anybody registered.
Okay, thank you. Then are there any final comments or questions? Member Hamilton.
Through the chair to staff, do we need to make two motions here? One for the consent application and one for the minor variance?
Yes, I would
just wanting to check that before we get into the motion section of it.
Yes, I would agree with that. Then I will, if there are no comments or questions further, then I will request a motion on this application for the severance B68. Member Hamilton.
I move that we accept application
I believe it was B68. Oh, is it 6.8 on one page or 6.3 on another? What is it, 6.3 or 6.8? 6.3? Okay, thank you. And you had made the comment to add a condition for an identification of a 911?
Yes, that would be another condition to be added, that a 911 number be identified off of the
Blue Lake Road?
Blue Lake Road.
Thank you. Is there a second for this motion? Member Schmidt? I will now call this motion to a vote for the severance, starting with Member Emmett. Oh, Emmett, how is the? Member Panag?
Yes.
Member Vamus?
Yes.
Member Schmidt?
Yes.
Member Hamilton? Member Smith?
Yes.
Member Brown? Yes. The application for the severance has now been approved. I will now request a motion for the minor variance, which was, I thought that had a separate number on it.
Yeah.
828, yes. 828-22. Could I have a motion on that? Member Hamilton?
Yes, I move that we accept minor variance 828-22-DN because it is minor in nature and does fulfill all the things for the official plan for the County of Brant and the zoning bylaws.
Thank you. Is there a second? Member Schmidt? I will now call the vote, starting with Member Smith.
Yes.
Member Panay.
Yes.
Member Vamus.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
And Member Hamilton.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion for the minor variance has carried and the application has been approved. Thank you. I will now introduce item 7 on our agenda for application B59-22-LG and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and recommendation.
This is a consent application for lands located at 70 River Road within the geographic township of Brantford. The subject lands are located north of River Road, west of Newport Road, and east of Cockshut Road. The subject lands are irregular in shape and have a lot frontage of 150 meters, a depth of approximately 50 meters, and a lot area of approximately 0.89 hectares. The subject lands contain one existing dwelling and an accessory structure which will be demolished upon approval of this application. The surrounding area consists of primarily low-density residential and agricultural land uses. The subject lands are privately serviced by well and septic system. The applicant is proposing the creation of one new rural residential building lot within the rural residential designation. The severed lands are proposed to have an area of 4,036 square meters and a frontage of 125.8 meters along River Road. The retained lands have an area of 4,052 square meters and a frontage of 58.8 meters along River Road. A stage 1 and 2 archaeological assessment were submitted as part of a complete application. Based on the findings of the report, it was determined the study area has been sufficiently assessed and is free from further archaeological concern. An MDS-1 report was included as part of the application, which confirms the proposed development complies with the minimum distance separation formula and maintains adequate separation from surrounding livestock. Detailed review of the proposed new lot development will be completed as part of the building permit review process. The subject lands are designated as rural residential within the County of Brant official plan. The lands were subject to a zoning bylaw amendment, ZBA 1922DN, that was approved by Council on September 27, 2022. The Zoning bylaw amendment proposed to rezone the subject lands from agriculture to special exception rural residential to permit a reduced minimum rear yard setback of 10 meters, whereas a minimum of 15 meters is required in order to facilitate further residential lot creation. One public comment was received as part of the public circulation. The comment had concern with regards to the water table and proposed lot size. Proof of potable water is a condition of the consent application. The proposed lot meets the lot creation requirement for the rural residential zone, with the exception of the rear yard setback, which was addressed in the zoning bylaw amendment ZBA 1922 DN. I would also like to note that condition 7 was amended to provide more clarity. In addition, through discussions with the agent and as noted in the planning justification report, no trees are proposed to be removed. Review of this consent application proposing the creation of one new lot has had regard for section 5124 of the Planning Act and the criteria to be considered when reviewing consent applications, comments received as part of the technical and public circulation. The lot creation is compatible and consistent within the context of existing development. The application is consistent with the policies of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe and consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement. The application is in conformity with the general consent of the policies of the official plan and zoning bylaw. It is my professional recommendation that consent application B5922LG be approved as amended. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Do any committee members have any questions or comments to staff on this application? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to staff, you made the comment that there was a building or a shed on there that was to be taken down, but I don't see it as a condition in the in the list of conditions that were there. I'm just wondering if it should be included or not, and what your opinion on that is.
Through the chair, you are correct. That is not a condition. I am comfortable to add that as a condition based on where the proposed lot line is. It would be too close in proximity to meet setback requirements.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions? Do you know if the applicant or their agent is present?
Yes, the agent is present online.
This is the
Good evening, Madam Chair. Again, this is Ruchika Angry. We have read the staff report and are in support of the amended conditions. I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Do any committee members have any questions or comments to the agent on this application? It appears there are none. And are there any public delegations registered to speak? Don't believe there are any. No. Then I'll ask the committee, are there any final questions or comments? Yes, Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to staff, I do not see that we've asked them to identify a 911 number on this new established lot. Is that correct? Or is that needed or not needed till later on?
Through the chair to Member Hamilton, that will be required for development and could be included as a condition.
Yeah, I'm not, sometimes they're included and sometimes they aren't, so I'm just asking for what the consistent is through the, through staff and what the County of Brant has.
Through the chair, there is condition 3, which has the applicant provide proof/copy of draft civic addressing for the severed and retained lands.
Okay, all right.
Thank you. Any further comments? Member Vamus?
Through the chair to Lauren, is it possible the severed parcel could be severed again in half in a year or two down the road?
Through the chair to Member Vamos, based on what the lot creation requirements, a new rural residential lot is required to have a lot area of 4,000 square meters. So if they would propose a new lot severance, they would not be able to meet the new lot creation requirements, as well as, yes.
Any further comments, questions? I believe there are none, so I will now request a motion on this application. Member Smith?
I'll pass a motion to approve the application B5922, subject to the amended conditions, as the application conforms to the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe and is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the County of Brant official plan.
Thank you. Is there a second for this? Member Emmett? I'll now call the vote on this, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Schmidt?
Yes.
Member Vamus?
Yes.
Member Panay?
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion has carried. The application B59-22-LG has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now introduce item 8 on our agenda for application B75 through to applications B75 through to B7822 DN, and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and recommendations.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a consent application or multiple consent applications for the property located at 1318 Colbert Street West. Our agent is with us this evening virtually, and staff are recommending approval of this application. So the subject lands, the entire subject lands are identified in blue in the key map. This is at the corner, the southeast corner of Colburn Street East and Bishopsgate Road. The portion of the property that we'll be dealing with this evening are those colors, the blue, purple, and green colors, representing the proposed severed lots. So these portions were subject to a zoning bylaw amendment application recently that received provisional approval from the Planning Development Committee to establish specific uses for these future lots. The consent application, or the consent portion, proposes to actually sever those lots as shown on the screen. So we have severed lots 1, 2, and 3, each lot varying in size, but generally over 1 hectare each, maintaining adequate frontage. The retained lands will retain an area of 44.8 hectares. There is an access easement proposed to service as a shared access between severed lands 1 and 2. This graphic gives you a little better understanding of how, the layout of the lots and how these lots will function, and then identifies the location of that access easement. The idea behind the access easement is just to limit the number of entrances along Bishopsgate Road. So the official plan designation identifies that the lands being severed are within the blue area, which is our employment lands designation. A large portion of the retained lands is designated agricultural and will remain unchanged. The subject lands also contain some other areas that are within kind of north of the subject land, or the severed lands that are within that employment lands designation as well. The zoning, as I mentioned, on the proposed severed lands recently modified to permit the lot creation and permit uses for development. The actual detailed design of and development of the lots will be facilitated through site plan control application to be received at a later date. No further concerns were raised as part of the public or technical circulation of the application. As for the reasons outlined in my report, that is my professional recommendation that each of the consent applications for the lot creation and the access easement be approved with the attached conditions, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there any committee members who have comments or questions to staff on these applications? Member Hamilton.
Through the chair to staff, on the easement one, you've got it sort of broke out. Who actually owns that land? Or is it the lot line is there and a section on either side of that lot line is the easement that allows it? I don't quite understand. If it's owned by two separate people, I understand. If it's owned by one person or the same company, is the easement needed?
Through you, Madam Chair, I believe the initial way you described it is the way it's shown on this plan, is that the easement they would be providing each other with the rights to access land. Again, it's just through the shared entrance, so it's just to facilitate getting the vehicles into the sites, and then they would kind of operate independently.
Okay. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair, the staff, I wanting to look at, I think on the third, or the one farther south, the farthest south one right against the, I was out there when I was traveling looking at it. There seems to be a snowmobile trail going straight through that severance. What is going to happen in the future if this is severed off and developed and how does the Snowmobile Association interact either with the applicant or the new owners?
Through Madam Chair, that's a great question. I'm not sure of any agreements that are currently in place, whether it's with this property owner or with the abutting property owner to the south. But hopefully they've become aware of the application, or at least the development potential of these lands. As I showed you, there is some potential for development along these lands, and given the employment lands designation, so perhaps the route will have to be modified, unfortunately, but not anytime soon.
Yeah, just when I was out there was a stop sign right there at the road, and they had just put up in the last little while all the where the actual trail was and to maintain them from not going, and it was going diagonally across coming out at the rail trail back behind, I think 330. So I was just curious if that any discussion had taken place, or if the county had put anything in or discussed that with the applicant. Maybe that's more an applicant question than yourself.
Thank you. Any further comments or questions to staff? I had a question regarding condition 8, and I believe that's come about because of the new Bill 23. So if they're doing a dedication for Parkland, does that only encompass the gross land value of these 3 severed lots? Is that what it's referring to?
Through Madam Chair, so just to clarify, the request for cash in lieu, it's not it's a condition, or the cash in lieu parkland dedication. That's a condition that the committee is used to seeing for residential lots, whether it be rural residential lots or suburban residential lots, and you're used to seeing a fixed value to that, depending on whether it was rural or suburban residential. You'll see a bylaw referenced in that condition, and the date of that bylaw is 2022. So at the beginning of this year, back in January, the bylaw was passed, and now we have the ability to ask for parkland dedication or cash in lieu of parkland payment at a value of 2%, which comes in the Planning Act. It comes from the Planning Act, and so we've included it as a condition here. We now have a bylaw that would allow us to assess commercial, industrial and employment or commercial, industrial, and institutional lands, which we didn't have before. So the committee may be seeing that condition included moving forward, and we are applying that cash in lieu or parkland bylaw to other types of applications, site plan control applications, whenever we have the opportunity to take it. So it's not related necessarily to any new legislation, but it's definitely related to the bylaw that we passed at the county 1 year ago.
Okay, so the gross land area that you're referring to in it is only on those 3 lots.
That's correct.
Okay, not on the whole parcel itself. Okay, thank you. And that's the value, like if it were sold, when those lots are sold, and then the 2% can be calculated.
Yeah, through Madam Chair, that's correct. The bylaw does include a very detailed description of how that appraised value is achieved.
Okay,
So we'll work from that.
thank you. Any further comments or questions to staff? I believe there are none, so you have indicated that the applicant's agent is present, and that is Mr. Stewart.
Yep, Mr.
Mr.
Stewart.
Stewart, do you wish to add anything to the staff report?
If I just may add just a few comments. First, we appreciate that staff have brought this here. We've been working with them on the amendment to the bylaw, which is going to the next council. We have reviewed the report and what's recommended. We find that the proposed conditions are acceptable. We want to advise that this reflects what the official plan expected. We've done an amendment to the bylaw to ensure these parcels, when built upon, will provide employment. We've identified an easement, and yes, the intent of the easement is that each of the 2 proposed parcels would gain access off of each other to reduce the number of accesses. We ask that you support staff, and if there's any questions, we would be pleased to respond. With regards to the snowmobile point, this did not come up through the circulation of either the bylaw amendment. This is the first we've been informed of that. The intent of both the official plan and the amendment to the bylaw and this consent is that these parcels will be built for employment, and that therefore the snowmobile access trail will have to be amended. And that's what I wish to speak to.
Thank you. Are there any comments to the agent from committee members or questions? I believe there are none, and there were no public delegations registered for this. No. With that, are there any? Yes, Member Vamus?
Yes, through the chair to the applicant, there's going to be new engineering drawings coming out. Do you anticipate more easements now? There'll probably be new ones that you don't have now. That'll come up with the new drawings for encroachments and stuff like that.
And to respond back through the chair, the next step after the consent applications are finalized is the site plan. And if through that site plan and potentially to address storm water, there may be further easements. We wanted to ensure that the easement for the access is part of the request. It was also supportive by council. So answer to the question, there could be further easements.
Thank you.
Are there any final comments or questions from the committee members? Member Hamilton.
Through the chair to the secretary of the committee, do we take these four separate, or do we do it one motion for all four, the three severances plus the easement? What's the preference?
Thank you. Through the chair, we have prepared this to be one decision that captures all the conditions. Maybe the easement would be the only one that could be a separate decision.
Just to add, the conditions for the severance or the lot creation, they've been designed to all be the same, and then the consent to establish the easement is a separate list of conditions. So perhaps the way it's laid out in the report, which groups B75, 76, 77, which are the creation of the lots, and then a separate decision for the easement.
Thank you.
And if there are no final comments or questions, I will now put to the committee request for a motion on this, on the severance applications B75 to 77. Member Smith, please go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve B7522, B7622, and B7722 as the severances are consistent with the provincial policy statement and compliant with the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe and comply with the general intent of the official plan for Brant.
Thank you. Is there a second? Member Hamilton, I will now call the motion to a vote, starting with Member Hamilton.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
Member Vamus.
Yes.
Member Panay.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
And Member Brown, yes. The motion for applications B75 to 77 has carried. Those applications have been approved. I'll now request a motion for application B78, the easement on the two lots. Member Smith, please go ahead.
I'll make an motion to approve B7822 as the easement is consistent with the provincial policy statement, complies with the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe and the County of Brant official plan.
Thank you. Is there a second for this? Member Hamilton. I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Hamilton.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
Member Vamus.
Yes.
Member Panay.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion for the easement application B7822 has carried. The application has been approved. Thank you. I will now introduce item number 9 on our agenda, which is an application for severance B7422 LG, minor variances A3322 LG and A3522 LG. And I'll turn it over to staff for her report and recommendations.
This is a consent and minor variance application for lands located at 545 and 547 Pinehurst Road within the geographic township of South Dumfries. The subject lands at 547 Pinehurst Road contain one residential dwelling and one accessory structure. The lot has a frontage of 161.36 meters and a lot area of 2.68 hectares. The benefiting parcel at 545 Pinehurst Road has a frontage of approximately 22.86 meters on Pinehurst Road and a lot area of 0.52 hectares. The subject lands are located east of Pinehurst Road and south of Brant Waterloo Road. The subject area consists of predominantly agricultural land uses. The subject lands are privately serviced by well and septic. The benefiting parcel at 545 Pinehurst Road contains one residential dwelling and two accessory structures, one of which will be removed upon approval of this application. The existing dwelling is 0.24 meters from the interior side yard to the north. As well, the existing patio stones encroach onto 547 Pinehurst Road. The intent is to modify the existing hardscaping features to re-establish two distinct properties and maintain a 0.6 meter setback from the proposed lot line. This application contains three parts. Part 1 is consent application B7422LG, which proposes a lot line adjustment with approximately 0.05 hectares being severed from 547 Pinehurst Road and consolidated with 545 Pinehurst Road to bring the existing dwelling into greater conformity with the zoning bylaw 6116. Part 2 is a minor variance application, A3322LG, to recognize the modified area of the existing legal non-complying lot being 2.63 hectares, resulting from the related minor lot line adjustment application B7422LG. Part 3 is a minor variance application, A3522LG, seeking relief from section 4.5 of the zoning bylaw to permit a maximum distance of 72 meters from the future additional residential unit to the new primary dwelling, whereas 40 meters is required. As well, the applicant is seeking to recognize the modified area of the existing legal non-complying lot being 0.57 hectares, resulting from the related minor lot line adjustment application B7422LG. The site plan displays the existing dwelling, which is going to be converted into the additional residential unit, and the new primary dwelling, which will be built in the future. The applicants have demonstrated how the proposed 72-meter distance is desirable and appropriate development due to the irregular parcel shape, a drainage swale which exists approximately 35 meters from the proposed additional residential unit, and an existing metal-clad shed which is to remain, which is located approximately 43 meters from the proposed additional residential unit. And MDS1 was included as part of the application, which confirms the proposed development complies with the minimum distance separation formula and maintains adequate separation from surrounding livestock uses. The subject lands are designated as agriculture within the County of Brant official plan and zoned agriculture within the County of Brant zoning bylaw 6116. One public comment was received as part of the public circulation. The comment had concern regarding the proposed 72-meter setback from the additional residential unit to the future dwelling. The applicants have demonstrated that a greater than 40-meter setback is required due to the existing drainage swale and accessory structures on the property. I am recommending approval of this consent application B7422LG as the application is technical, minor in nature, and compatible with surrounding land uses. The lot line adjustment will bring the interior side yard setback of the existing dwelling into greater conformity with the zoning bylaw. The proposal does not result in the creation of a new agricultural lot. The application is in conformity with the policies of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe and consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement. The application is in conformity with the general intent of the policies of the official plan and zoning bylaw. And I'm recommending approval of minor variance applications A3322LG and A3522LG. Review for the minor variance applications has had regard for the four tests of the Planning Act as set out in section 45.1 of the Planning Act and comments received as part of the technical and public circulation. The proposed variance is considered technical, minor in nature, and is desirable for the appropriate development and use of the subject lands. The proposed variance is in keeping with the general intent of the official plan and zoning bylaw, and the proposed variance meets the four tests of the Planning Act. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. Are there committee members who have comments or questions for staff on these applications? I believe there are none. Is the applicant or their agent here tonight? Yes? Do you have the Vinces? Do you have anything to add to the staff report?
No, I think it's covered. If there's any questions, we're happy to answer them.
Thank you. I'll ask the committee members, do you have any questions to the applicants? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair, to the applicant, you're proposing a new primary dwelling and extended back past the 72. I was just curious what kind of a water source you would have.
We would have a drilled well.
An additional one, a new
We're
one?
looking
or-
at one well with piping to both properties.
So you just maintain the well you have and pipe back to it. Is that what you're saying?
No, we'll drill a new well for the new primary dwelling.
Okay.
And pipe it back to the additional residential unit.
Oh, okay, so the new well would actually service the old building, which is the area. Okay.
That's right, yes.
Thank you.
Any further comments or questions to the applicants? It appears there are none. Are there any public delegations registered to speak to this application? I thought I saw someone in the public. You have no comments or questions? Okay, thank you. Then, are there any final questions or comments from the committee members? I believe Member Smith, do you have? No? Thank you. Then I'll move to requesting a motion on these applications, a motion for the severance, and then I believe the minor variances have differing conditions. So a motion for each application, the severance and then the two minor variances. Member Emmett? B7422 LG, and your reason for putting forth your motion? Okay, thank you. Is there a second? Member Schmidt? I'll now call this motion to vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Schmidt?
Yes.
Vamas?
Yes.
Panay?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
Brown? Yes. The motion for the severance, B7422 LG, has carried. I'll now request a motion on the first minor variance, A3322. Would you like to put forth a motion again, Member Emmett?
Yes, I'll move that we approve the minor variance for A3322 LG.
Thank you. And the reason again?
It's minor in nature and it works to the betterment of the Brant County official plan.
Thank you. Seconder, Member Schmidt. I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
Member Vamas.
Yes.
Member Panay.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion for application A3322 LG has carried. That application has been approved. I'll now request a motion for application A3322 LG. Member Emmett?
I'll move that we accept or pass the minor variance for A3522.
A3322?
A33?
Yes. That's, well,
I did 33 before, didn't
I have 33. Oh, sorry. Yes, 35, you're right. I'm reading the wrong number, sorry.
Okay.
Apologies.
That's easy. It's minor in nature and it keeps the general intent of the official plan.
Thank you. Second, Member Schmidt. I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Smith,
Yes.
Member Panag,
Yes.
Vamus,
Yes.
Schmidt,
Yes.
Hamilton,
Yes.
Emmett,
Yes.
and Brown, yes. Motion for application A3522 LG has carried. The application has been approved. Thank you. And I will now introduce item 10 on our agenda for application B6222 LG for 10 Falkland Road, and turn it over to staff for the report.
This is a consent application for lands located at 10 Falkland Road. The subject lands are located north of Falkland Road and east of King Edward Street. The subject lands are rectangular in shape and have a frontage of 185.6 meters, an area of 20,112.9 square meters, and contain a residential dwelling and accessory structure. Based on county mapping, the subject lands are identified to be in close proximity to a provincially significant wetland and woodland vegetation that are part of a natural heritage system. The environmental impact study that was submitted demonstrates that the proposal will have no negative impact on the existing natural heritage features and is subject to a number of protective measures included as conditions of approval. A Union Gas easement and hydro tower easement are located within the proposed severance area. Future development will need to adhere to setback requirements from the existing easements and existing natural heritage features. The applicant is proposing the creation of one new residential lot within the settlement boundary of Falkland in the rural hamlets and villages zone on private services. The severed lands are proposed to have an approximate lot frontage of 121.4 meters, an approximate area of 13,447 square meters. The retained lands containing the existing dwelling will maintain an approximate frontage of 64 meters along Falkland Road and an area of 6,831 square meters. The subject lands are designated as hamlet and villages and are located within the settlement boundary of Falklands and are zoned rural hamlets and villages within the County of Brant zoning bylaw. No comments were received as part of the public circulation. Review of this consent application proposing the creation of a new lot has had regard for section 5124 of the Planning Act and the criteria to be considered when reviewing consent applications, and comments received as part of the technical circulation. The lot creation is compatible and consistent with the context of the existing development. The application is consistent with the policies of the growth plan for the Greater Golden Horseshoe and consistent with the policies of the provincial policy statement. The application is in conformity with the general intent of the policies of the official plan and zoning bylaw. It is my professional recommendation that consent application B6222 LG be approved. Thank you, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you for the presentation. I'll ask committee members, do you have any comments or questions on this application? It appears there are none. I have a question. I missed what you said about the environmental impact study. So since this severed portion is 13,000 square meters and the requirement is roughly 4,000, there is a potential to sever more lots off this. And then at that point, you mentioned environmental impact study is done, or for the creek, or no?
To the chair, so an environmental impact study has already been conducted and submitted. Also on the severed parcel, there is a hydro easement as well as a Union Gas easement. That would make it complicated if they did decide to create new lots in the future.
So that was part of my question too, because I noticed one of the condition 6 referred to the easement. So those easements are only on that severed portion. Okay, thank you. Any further comments or questions? Is the applicant or their agent here? Yes? Do you have anything, could I have your name?
My name is Corbin Garrett.
Thank you.
Agent for Susan Kelly, and her daughter is also here for this application. The client is fully prepared and all of
Please come.
for our viewers at home.
Yes.
I can hear you.
For the viewers at home, if you could stand here at the podium.
Madam Chair, council members, my name is Corwin Perrin. I'm the agent for Susan Kelly, the applicant, and she is fully prepared to meet all the requirements that have been set out by the County of Brant.
So do you have anything further to add to the report then?
In regards to your question, there's a very large portion of this parcel that is an easement for the hydro and the gas, and it is directly adjacent to the wetlands. So it's a farmer's field, so there's really no impact of any nature that's going to happen.
Thank you. Do any committee members have questions or comments to the agent? It appears there are none. And were there any public delegations registered for this? No, not to our knowledge. Then I will ask the committee, are you prepared to make a motion on this application? Member Hamilton?
I'd like to make a motion that we accept application B62-22-LG because it fulfills the official plan of the County of Brant and the bylaws that follow it. And with that, the acceptance of the list of conditions that have been before.
Thank you. Is there a second for this motion? Member Vamus? I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes.
Schmidt.
Yes.
Vamus.
Yes.
Panag.
Yes.
Member Smith.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion for application B6222 has carried, and the application has been approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll now introduce item 11 for application B7322AA and turn it over to staff for the presentation of the report and the recommendation. So this is from Arwa Online.
All right, good evening. This is a consent application for the lands located at 15 Papel Road in Kingsville to facilitate a lot line adjustment with the abutting parcel. The subject lands are located at 15 Papel Road on the north side of Colburn Street East. The applicant is proposing a lot line adjustment between 15 Papel Road and the abutting parcel to sever an area of 0.6 hectares to convey the existing fence line that runs north-south through this lot. No new lots or development are proposed as part of this application. The subject lands are designated employment within the County of Brant official plan. The application is in conformity with the County of Brant official plan as it allows for industrial related uses. The subject lands are zoned heavy industrial within the County of Brant zoning bylaw. The proposed use of the parcels will not change, and all requirements for the parcel in an M3 zone are being satisfied for both lots. I'm in support of the application as it is in keeping with the intent and purpose of the official plan and zoning bylaw. The request is minor and technical in nature and will not impact adjacent land uses. I am recommending approval of the lot line adjustment application subject to the attached conditions. Thank you and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Arwa? Do the committee members have any questions for staff? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to staff, I was just looking at condition 11, and it's got here that it has to be within 1 year. I thought everything had been changed to a 2-year period for them to fulfill the conditions. Just wondering what your thoughts are on that.
Through the chair to Member Hamilton, typically with consent applications, we use 1 year, but if you wanted to change that to 2 years, we can also do that.
No, I'm just curious. Everything else has been 2 years. And then all of a sudden,
Okay.
this is 1 year and wanting to know why or was it just a cut and
Okay,
paste?
so yeah, sorry, it was an error. It should have been 2 years.
Thank you.
Any further comments, questions to staff? And is the applicant or their agent present?
They're present online.
They are. What is their name?
Matthew White here from JH Cahoon Engineering. We're acting as the agent here. Jacob Bix is also online, who's the owner.
And do you have anything to add to the staff report?
Nope, we are in agreement with the report and are appreciative of the approval or the recommended approval, and we understand and are prepared to accept the conditions that are listed.
Thank you. Do committee members have any comments or questions to the agent? I believe there are none. And with this, I will request a motion on application B73. Oh, I did forget. Are there any public delegations registered for this? No? Okay. I'll request a motion from the committee now on this application B7322. AA. Member Smith, please go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve the application B7322 because it is compliant with the growth plan, the BPS, and the county official plan and the general intent of the zoning bylaw, subject to the amended condition number 11.
Thank you. Is there a second for this motion? Member Emmett, I'll now put it to vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton.
Yes.
Member Schmidt.
Yes.
Member Vamus.
Yes.
Member Panay.
Yes.
And Member Smith.
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion has carried. Application B7322AA has been approved. We will now move forward to hear the fence variance application scheduled for this evening since we have finished with other consents on severances and minor variances. So I'll now introduce item 12 on our application FV3-22-AA and turn it over to staff for the presentation of this report. So again, this will be ARWA online.
Great. This is an objection hearing for a fence variance application for the lands located at 6 Queen Street South in Scotland. The application for a fence variance was received from the property owner at 6 Queen Street South to permit a 6-foot wooden fence to be constructed along the front property line facing Church Street East, whereas a maximum 3-foot high fence is permitted. The applicants are requesting the additional height for increased privacy and security of their garage. The subject lands are located on the east side of Queen Street South, north of Church Street East. The lands that are requesting minor variance for or fence variance for are L-shaped with frontage along Queen Street East and Church Street East, or Queen Street South and Church Street East. The lands are residential area designated suburban residential in the County of Brant official plan. The lands are zoned special exceptions suburban residential in the zoning bylaw. A notice of the variance was circulated to abutting property owners where the proposed fence will share. The notice of objection was received from the abutting property owner at 16 Church Street East. Details of the objection can be found in the report. One public comment was received from a neighbor in support of this fence variance. Staff are requesting for a decision on the fence variance application based on the information included in the report. The committee can approve, defer, refuse the application. As part of the decision, the committee may also add conditions which are considered appropriate to the nature of the application. Thank you and happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Do the committee members have any questions or comments to staff before I ask? Yes. No questions at this point, and I'll ask bylaw if you could provide a brief summary or presentation of your involvement.
So on September 26, 2022, we received a complaint regarding the fence. The complainant lives on Church Street there, that her property abuts the fence line. And so her main complaint at the start was that the fence was moved, an old fence was torn down, and the fence was moved closer to her driveway. And then she had another complaint about an auto body business being run. So the owners put up a new fence to block the existing garage and to block her view from it. And then she proceeded to call us. So since this is considered a front yard, the fence is technically too high, and that's why we're here at the variance.
Thank you. Are there any comments or questions from the committee members to the bylaw officer?
Member Smith?
Oh, Member Smith, sorry. So, please go ahead.
Through the chair to bylaw, just checking, and maybe we haven't gotten to this point yet, but is the fence entirely on the subject property, or do we know where that is in location to the property line?
It appears to be directly on the property line.
Okay, so it's technically a shared fence. Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? I will ask, is the applicant present? Yes, could you please come forward and state your name and outline your proposal?
Sure. My name is Ryan Beck. This is my partner, Amy Spiro. We are the owners of 6 Queen Street South, and we are the applicants for the minor variance for the fence height. As you can see in the aerial, the property is shaped as an L, so it has created a little bit of an unorthodox situation where the front of our house is facing Queen Street South and the front of our garage is facing Church Street East. The problem with that is we're unable to essentially be able to see any portion of the front of the garage from any part of our property aside from the front of the garage. So we're unable to see the garage doors, the man door, or any of the windows. So with only having a 3-foot height, we're a little bit concerned that we're sort of in a position where we can't monitor any potential break-ins or any sort of like potential theft with that. And there was a pre-existing fence along Church Street East, and there was a fence that ran along the interior west line that is a shared property line with the owners of 16 Church Street East. Both fences were in poor condition, and actually earlier on in the summer had started to fall over and the boards were falling off of the posts, so we took it upon ourselves to replace that. We had a survey performed on the property on April 8th, 2021, and the fence was constructed August 2022. Between April 8th and August 2022, there was no concerns in regards to height brought into our attention from any of the neighbors. The survey that was performed, it did show that the property line was 48 inches different than the fence that existed that was in poor condition. There also was quite a few like tree stumps in almost like a no man's zone between their driveway and the backside of the current fence. So when we were going through the financial investment of putting the new fence up, to us it only made sense that the fence would now be moved to the property line that was discovered by the surveyors in April 2021. And there are pictures that have been included from our point of view, and there have been pictures included from our neighboring at 16 Church Street East. And as far as we're concerned, the fence isn't on a joint property line, it's actually set back. And the stake that was put as close to the driveway as was able to be done there at the time of the survey, the people that performed the survey said that that stake actually should be in the asphalt driveway, but obviously they're not able to put it at that point, so they put it in the nearest part of the dirt. Regardless of that, there was a 6-foot fence that ran along Church Street East for the last 15 years, and the fence that ran between the driveway of 16 Church Street East and essentially our driveway at our garage was at a height of 5 feet. So at no point over the last 15 years had there been a fence there that was restricted to 3 feet regardless. But our main concern obviously is just to provide a little bit of privacy from either Queen Street, Church Street, or I believe there's another street. Sorry, I have some notes. Sorry, the other street that the garage would be visible from would be Marcus. So for people that seem to be coming into Scotland periodically, we would be kind of like a target for potential theft, as there's no street light on Queen Street East as well. So at night, the garage is essentially in pitch black aside from the lights that are on the building itself. So if we didn't have a 6-foot fence, there was no deterrent for potential theft as well. Any questions we're able to answer?
Are there any questions or comments from the committee members to the applicant? Member Hamilton?
Through the chair to the applicant, when I was out there touring, I noticed you've got a very wide opening there to drive in and out for access. There is no gate on that, correct?
There is not.
I'm just assuming if there's no gate there, in that situation, I understand your concern of people coming in there, but with that the gate being open, you aren't going to see anybody driving in there anyways late at night with or without a spotlight.
For sure. I guess
We do plan on putting a gate in the future. We've been slowly putting fences around the property as it's super expensive. So we've kind of just ended there because all this stuff was filed.
Yeah,
So
I can accept that. I'm just stating the fact.
For sure.
It's still open to the general public or anybody that wanted to come by.
With that, if the fence wasn't there, the opening or potential foot traffic into the garage would be a lot different than the actual opening of walking through or driving. And then obviously the lights on the building illuminate the opening as well. And the opening of our garage is actually directly across from a new house that was built across from us a few years ago. So that opening on the garage door area there, that driveway, would be monitored by like a Ring doorbell that they have. Like they've specifically said that that area of our entranceway there does have, I guess, surveillance in that sort of aspect. But I see what you're saying, and we're not sure how the application of that works, if we're entitled to put a gate there. I know it has been a concern, and I'm not sure if that's a different application as well. We're not sure how that works.
I would also argue that surveillance isn't that helpful, because when you do send that in, it's very rare that they can find anyone with that. So I think having the fence with a gate access would give us a lot more security and privacy for the future.
Thank you. I do have one quick question though, on top of that. I noticed it only went back to the neighboring house, property, but from there on, there's a 4-foot chain fence that goes around the rest of your property. Is that correct? And then the one on 4 Queen, that on that fence is only a 4-foot high fence between your property and their property, a wooden one. I don't know if that's your fence or their fence.
We do have chain link. We are growing cedars there for privacy. The chain link was put up just to secure our dogs inside, because we do also have 2 dogs that run around the property.
But
And we did have another dog come through our property about 3 times that ended up attacking the neighbor's dog behind. So we were just securing our property in.
the choice to put chain link along that back section of the property line versus having the wood at the garage, 2 reasons for that. Obviously cost, chain link was a lot more affordable at the time to put along the back, and the neighbors had brought up concerns about the aesthetic of what a wood fence brings to the neighborhood as well. I guess sort of putting chain link there was a compromise in that aspect, that it does still kind of keep that open concept village sort of feel. When we took possession of the property 3 years ago, there wasn't any adequate fencing aside from what was in front of the garage and along the side there. The actual property that we are able to actually use as a backyard had nothing, so that's why we chose to put chain link there for that.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions to the applicant? I have a question on the aerial view and your sketch for this fence that runs between you and the neighbor and goes to Church Street, and then the one parallel to Church Street. Is that basically I'd seen a picture of the old one, so it's the same fence? Or have you extended it further to Church Street?
It's no closer to Church Street. It follows like the fence that runs parallel to Church Street. The height of that fence, the construction, and the actual like line of fence never changed. The only change to the fencing in that area was that it moved 48 inches closer to 16 Church Street east there, and then that runs parallel to their driveway.
So the wooden fence existed running parallel to the neighbor's driveway before?
Yes, it did, and it was 5 feet tall.
And if you notice where the gate opening is, those posts are the original posts that were there. So we actually just built right beside them.
So the only real reason why that fence was replaced because the post started to break, and when we had a storm, actually a large panel of that fence did fall over. So we took it down essentially prematurely just because we didn't want to receive a complaint that the fence had fallen over. And then later on, like a month later, the posts were replaced and all the boards were done. And then at that time, the fence went from 5 feet height to 6 feet high.
The reason we also chose 6 feet there is the neighbors behind did complain about seeing us in our garage and using our garage. So we did change location of the door to appease their complaints. And then bringing it up obviously just granted us a little bit more privacy. And then obviously with respect to their request not to see us in our garage.
Thank you. Do any committee members have any further comments or questions? Yes, Member Vamus.
Through the chair to the applicant, did you construct the fence yourself personally, or did you hire a contractor?
We hired a contractor to put the posts in place, and then we put the boards on.
And then you had a survey done, you said?
Yeah, April.
The person doing the posts was aware of the survey, or they looked at it?
The stakes were still in place during the post install.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments to the applicant? I'll then ask, is the objector present to this application?
Yes, I am.
Yes?
Mm-hmm.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Tracy Vanderwyk. I live at 16 Church Street East in Scotland. We've lived here for about 30 years.
Thank you. Can you please go ahead with your summary and reasonings for the objection?
Yeah, sure. I'm here to speak in opposition to the variance application submitted. In addition to our concerns over the negative impact this intrusive fence has on the aesthetics of our property, we are concerned about the safety hazard caused by the fence that runs parallel to our driveway as close as a few inches away, right up to the county property line, as it significantly reduces our sight line when pulling out of our driveway. We know there's several people who walk their dogs and children along this road, as well as being a route to school for neighborhood kids. Since the new fence has been built, we cannot see anything to the west of our driveway until we've pulled out past the fence. It's kind of like being in a parking lot and having a bus parked next to you, and you don't know if anything's coming until you're halfway out of your parking spot. The applicant has noted his concerns for security of his driveway. We all have valuable property that we'd like to protect. However, none of us has the luxury of being able to see our property 24/7. So we invest in good locks and security cameras if required, which I believe the applicant already has some installed. But none of us can just arbitrarily build a compound around our property. And I will note that the county is currently in the process of installing streetlights in Scotland. One is to be put at the edge of their driveway on Church Street, so this should help with security on their property. And as far as privacy goes, as one member pointed out, there's a chain link fence 5 foot around most of their property. So I don't understand that need for 6 foot board on board for privacy for a parking lot. Our concern was not seeing them in their garage. It was the activities in their garage, which is not a discussion for today. So I'm not going to refute the accuracy of most of the comments made by the applicant in their submission of December 8th, as I feel a lot of the comments aren't relevant to the matter at hand. However, I am going to note a few things just to clarify. This application is for a fence that runs along Church Street East and the length of our driveway. So yes, we can see it, and yes, it does impact us. Yes, there was a 5 foot high fence built around the property. This was done in 2004 as ordered by the OMB. We didn't like it, but we had no recourse at that time. With our agreement, the previous owners had been in the process of tearing down the old fence and replacing it with a split rail fence, using the existing tree stumps as posts. They had been done from the back of the property up to the edge of the garage. We were planning on extending the fence along the balance of the property line with, of course, the neighbor's consent. But as the applicant noted, they removed both the fence and the stumps from our property as well as theirs. So in addition, the fence that runs the length of our driveway was not installed along the exact same location as the old fence, but it is in fact up to 4 feet closer to our driveway. When the applicant said in their submission that the fence length was extended by 49 inches, they really meant it was moved over as close as they could get to the edge of our driveway. This has reduced our line of sight to the west to nil until we're past the fence. And I'd also like to ask for a confirmation of the applicant's statement that the Brant County Department of Transportation has ruled the fence that runs along the side of our driveway has no impact on safety. And if this is correct, I'd ask that they give us the opportunity to demonstrate our concerns with the line of sight to them. So to conclude, I'd just like to say the purpose of the minor variance is to allow suitable exceptions to existing bylaws where appropriate, and the general intent of the purpose of the zoning bylaw and official plan are maintained. We submit that this application does not meet these conditions and therefore should be denied.
Thank you. Are there any committee members who have comments or questions to the objector? I believe there are none. Are there public delegations registered for this? Because there's still some parties online.
Frank is also a resident of 16 Church Street.
Linda is just a neighbor that has been in support of the fence, and we do have other neighbors here in support of the fence as well.
Okay, I will move to the people who are in council chambers. Could you give your name and provide a summary? Please do.
Are you able to put the aerial view back up?
Can we do that? Arwa?
I can share my screen. This one right here.
Yes.
My name's Dan Galashan. I live at 4 Queen Street South, right beside Brian and Amy. So if you bring up that aerial view, you have their L shape. I'm in their little cutout there. That's my place.
Okay.
So I live right in that little cutout. That's the house and the garage right there. That's mine. So I have a little bit more knowledge than they do of past experiences with the Vanderwicks and past people who have lived in their house. So there was a fence. That fence along the road there is in the exact same spot, and it is the exact same height. The old fence that they took down was dangerous and an eyesore, and it was always there, and it's been there for 10 plus years, and there was never a complaint from the Vanderwicks at that time. These people move in, and they spent a small fortune just fixing up the property, making things safer. And not only was it an eyesore, it was dangerous. It could have fallen over. And they put a nice, beautiful, pressure-treated fence there. What should be happening is they should be thanked for that. It's in the same spot, and that fence does not block the Vanderwicks driveway whatsoever. And it's been like that for 15 years without a complaint. There's other issues going on here, which you obviously don't want me to go on about.
No, we would.
There also the fence in between them. There was always a fence there for the last 10 years or so. And the fence actually, the 5-foot fence actually went further on. Where their chain link fence is, it just got taken down after a few years. But they always had a fence in between there. And I also know firsthand that there was another survey done before they moved in with the past people who the Vanderwicks also had a problem with. And that survey did show that the property line was closer to the Vanderwicks house and in their driveway. They actually own a piece of the Vanderwicks driveway. And I could verify that because I watched the guys do the survey beforehand. They had a second survey done.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Are there any questions from the committee members? Don't see any from Member Smith either. So thank you. Oh, Member Vamus?
Sorry, I got one through the chair to the speaker. All these fences, like the old part of the old fence was 5 feet, the new one's 6, and then the chain link's different, and the bylaw is 3 feet. So all these fences, there's all different heights over the years, and it's all just a mix mash. No one really knew that it was only allowed to be 3 feet all along.
They had 6 foot along the road. That was always 6 foot there, always has been. And then they had a 5 foot in between the Vanderwicks and their existing property. But along the road was always 6 foot, and there was never ever a complaint. The garage was always there. They've obviously did a renovation, made the garage bigger. But there was never a complaint for 15 years. And for 15 years, they never had a problem. And honestly, if you go and look at their property, I think one of the members said he did a drive-by down there. If you actually look at their property, you can see they have plenty of room for their driveway to see up the road. What obstructs their view is if you look towards the east, about 8 foot past where that fence would go along, they have a bunch of trees on their front lawn, and you cannot see down the road for their trees. But that fence does not block any of the road at all.
Thank you.
If you actually go down there and had a look, you could easily see that.
Okay, thank you. Is there another member of the public who wishes to speak to this? Do you know, there's someone, okay, Arwa, if you could take down the,
Sorry, can I please get you to spell your last name for me?
G-A-L-L-I-C-H-A-N.
Thank you.
Thank you. There's someone named Jacob Bix.
He's an old applicant.
Oh, okay. Then there's no one else. Linda L. Do you know who that is?
Yes, I'm the neighbor that lives, oh God, how do I explain this? I'm on the other side of Amy and Ryan. So Dan is in the corner there, then there's Amy and Ryan's house, and then I'm on the other side facing Queen Street. So we've been here 12 years. I can confirm, some of the things that Dan's saying about the previous structures and what the fence looks like now.
Excuse
And I
me,
do agree
could I
that
get your last name for the record, please?
Of course, it's Lang, Laing.
A-I-N-G. Thank you.
Right.
Please go ahead.
Right. No, as I was saying, I concur that the fences are a huge improvement and definitely add value to the surrounding areas and just, the general area within Scotland as compared to what the old fences that they removed. So I've also never heard any complaints from anyone about it either.
But you are located further down Queen Street, so you're not as directly impacted.
That's right.
You have no access to Church Street. Thank you.
That's right.
And are there any further members of the public who wish to speak to this? Do committee members have any further comments or questions to members of the public? What about to the applicant or the objector or bylaw officers? Member Vamus, please.
Yes, to the chair and committee, I just had a comment. I was just thinking, if I was building a fence myself, I would see where I could build it and how high I could build it. So I don't know, this fence has already been built. It's supposed to have been 3 feet, it's 6 feet. He did it already, so I don't know. You think you wouldn't find that out ahead of time, or if the surveyor or the guy putting the posts in, you want to make sure you're following the rules. So I don't know. It seems if the rule is 3 and he already built it at 6, then I don't know what do you do about that?
The applicant wishes to respond. Can you respond to Member Vamus's comment?
Yeah,
Sorry, I just have to speak in the mic so that they can hear you over Zoom.
The reason we didn't look into the fence is because the fences were already previously built there, so we didn't think there would be a concern with building the exact same height of fence. And also because the way our property is shaped, it's our side yard, so we were also under the impression that the 6-foot fence was allowed because it was the side of our property and then the back of our property. We were only made aware of it being considered a front property during this process.
Yeah, we didn't realize that based on the fact that it abutted the neighbor's property, that it changed from a 6-foot high fence to a 3-foot high fence. And based on that, there had been no prior verbal issues with the 5-foot fence height. We thought that we were making a fence that followed the Brant County bylaw.
I will add, we did have permits and stuff like that for the rest of the work we did in the garage area that we knew we needed that for. So we are doing our best to try to follow the bylaws and the rules. We just were unaware of that being an issue.
And prior to that, we also took it upon ourselves to go into Brantford to look to see if there was a survey that was on file so that we could build the fence on the proper property lines, and there wasn't anything. So we took it upon ourselves to hire a surveyor, and we paid for that. So we did have some intention to do the right thing. So it was a mistake on our part that the fence height was done incorrectly at the property that abuts the neighbors. So.
Could I respond?
Please go
Through
ahead.
the chair to the applicant. Yeah, that was my point I was kind of getting at before. My first questioning was you followed the previous fence, but then the previous fence, you don't know if that was in the right spot to begin with, and then you don't know if that was the right height to begin with. So all your actions are on the previous thing, but then you don't even know if the previous thing was right or wrong in the first place.
Well, we found the proper property line for it, but yeah, you're right. We took it upon ourselves just to follow the fact that.
Yeah, you did the previous, but you don't even know the previous wasn't right.
Fair enough. Well, I guess it was because the OMB did rule that, so it was at one point.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Member Penag?
I have a question to the owners. The posts sticking out after the 6 feet, have they been cut or they've been kept as is?
The height above the 6 foot restriction
Yeah.
have not been cut at this point.
No, the post, part of the post, they're sticking out over 6 feet.
Oh, we haven't.
Yeah,
cut,
they haven't
we
been
haven't.
cut.
We haven't cut them yet. We just finished the fence before it got cold. So.
Any further comments or questions? Then I will ask the committee, are you prepared to make a motion?
And Tracy has her hand up. I don't know how much more.
Yes, Tracy Vanderwick?
Yes, I'd just like to reiterate that the 5-foot fence that was there, it was based on an OMB decision from 2004. We had since been in the process of removing that with the previous owners and had planned to do the rest of the fence with obviously the cooperation of the new owners. At 5 feet setback 4 feet from our driveway, it was a bit of an obstruction, but not a total obstruction. Now that the fence actually ends right at our driveway with less than 6 inches clearance, it gives us no line of sight. And that is why we are now saying we don't want it, because it has completely blocked our view from the west.
Thank you. Are there any further comments or questions to the objector from the committee?
Through the chair to the objector, I noticed that you're pulling your truck straight in. Have you ever thought about backing in? And therefore, when you're coming out, you've got that 6 to 8 feet to have a little safer to look at traffic coming up and down Church Street?
Actually, I always do back my vehicle in, and my husband usually does himself. Even backing into the driveway, you still have that whole nose of your vehicle sticking out past that fence before you can see past it. Again, think of being in a parking lot and that bus parks beside you. You can't see past it. No matter what, you cannot see past it. You have to bring the nose of your vehicle out past that fence in order to see what's coming from that direction.
And there was 6 to 8 feet from that fence to the edge of the road.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't
Yes.
right on the road. Therefore, there is on the front of the vehicle, your car or truck, the ability to look and be safe. I'm just saying, if you drive out, back in, drive out, that's all I'm saying is, but I agree 100% with you. Driving in, as this truck picture shows, and trying to back out, it would then be a dangerous situation.
Yes, and with all due respect, I understand we can pull out to see vehicles. My concern is people walking along the side of the road. We don't have sidewalks. People walk along the ditches. And it has happened that I've pulled out of my driveway and I get past the fence and my neighbor will be standing there with their dog waving at me because they've seen my vehicle come out and they've stopped. So that is our concern.
Thank you.
Understood.
I believe bylaw wishes to have some input.
Through you, Madam Chair, we can confirm that on October 17th, our traffic division responded and reviewed the current existing fence location and confirmed that the current existing location meets the Ontario Traffic Manual requirements and that there's no sightline concerns.
Thank you. Any questions then or comments? With that, I will ask the committee, may I have a motion to approve, defer, or refuse the fence variance application? As part of this decision, the committee may add conditions which are considered appropriate to the nature of this application. Member Smith.
I'll make a motion to approve the fence variance.
Thank you.
FB 322.
Pardon?
I just said the application number. FB 322.
And do you wish to impose any conditions on it?
No.
Thank you. Do we have a second to this motion? Member Hamilton? I'll now call the vote, starting with Member Emmett.
Yes.
Member Hamilton?
Yes.
Member Schmidt?
Yes.
Member Vamus?
No.
Member Panay?
Yes.
You said yes.
Yes.
Member Smith?
Yes.
And Brown, yes. The motion has carried. Application FV 3-22-AA has been approved. Thank you. And with that, we will move to item 7 on our agenda for the next meeting. It's scheduled for January 19th, 2023, and it again will be a hybrid meeting starting at 6 o'clock p.m. We'll now move to adjourn. May I please get a motion to adjourn this meeting? Member Emmett, a seconder. Member Panag. All in favor? Member Smith, yes. Thank you. The motion is carried. The meeting is now adjourned.